Welcome to this explainer. Look, we've all been there, right? You're standing in the office kitchen, just staring at your coworker's brand new luxury watch, or hearing about their perfectly curated Instagram vacation in Cabo, and you're just racking your brain wondering how on earth does the math work on their salary? Well, you are absolutely not alone. It's this nagging feeling we call envy math, and honestly, it creates this massive collective illusion of modern office wealth that can literally drive you crazy. So today, we're going to completely demystify this financial anxiety. We're going to reverse engineer exactly how the average American worker is actually paying for that flashy lifestyle they're showing off. Because, spoiler alert, once we look under the hood, the math has actually never worked. Okay, let's dive straight into this incredibly jarring stat from a 2025 Goldman Sachs survey. 40%. Let that sink in. 40% of Americans earning over $300,000 a year say they are living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, think about that for a second. These are people pulling in triple what the median American family earns, and they're telling a bank with a totally straight face that they are one broken dishwasher away from a complete financial crisis. It makes absolutely zero sense until you realize what Goldman Sachs uncovered, which is lifestyle creep. Luxuries have somehow just become necessities. These high earners literally spend every single raise they get over and over again until the math on a $300,000 salary somehow feels just as tight and stressful as the math on a $60,000 salary. So we've got to ask the big question here. How does the math actually work? Well, let's introduce a hypothetical coworker. We'll call him Greg. Now, when Greg starts humble bragging about his massive kitchen remodel, his wife's brand new SUV, and that upcoming European trip, there is a very real, non-trivial chance that Greg is also the guy who would absolutely spiral if he hit an unexpected $1,000 emergency. You see, our culture has basically brainwashed us into believing that looking wealthy and being wealthy are the exact same thing, but they are completely different. Looking wealthy really just proves that you spent money, not that you actually have it. So how is Greg actually funding this carefully curated lifestyle? To afford all this, Greg is actually relying on a three-layered debt scaffolding: endless credit cards, buy now, pay later stealth loans, and heavily stretched auto leases. Here's the absolute foundation of that scaffolding: credit cards. As of Q4 2025, Americans are sitting on a record-breaking $1.28 trillion in credit card debt. That is a staggering number. Nearly half of all cardholders, about 47%, are carrying a balance from month to month, and they're getting hit with an average interest rate of a punishing 21.5%. But honestly, the darkest piece of data here: 23% of people currently trapped in credit card debt believe they will literally never get out of it. They've completely given up, basically accepting that they'll be paying 21% interest forever just to maintain their baseline. Moving up, layer 2 is what I like to call the ultimate stealth weapon: buy now, pay later. Now, the crazy thing about BNPL is it rarely shows up on a credit report, which means absolutely nobody knows their coworker is using it. You'd probably think this is just for folks on super tight budgets, right? Well, notice the huge spike for high earners in the data. 32% of users making over $100,000 a year are using BNPL just to bridge the gap to their next paycheck. High earners are actually the most dependent on this basically payday loan-style financing. So the next time you see those casual festival photos popping up on LinkedIn, just remember that a huge chunk of those people finance their Coachella tickets and are probably still paying them off well into the fall. Which brings us right to the top layer: the auto loan trap. Get this, the average new car payment in America has hit $772 a month. And even crazier, 1 in 5 new buyers are actively signing up for payments over $1,000 a month. But here is the real unmasking of Greg's pristine luxury vehicle. Somewhere between 70 to 75% of new Mercedes, BMWs, and Audis on the road are just leased. They are not purchased. Greg doesn't actually own that BMW sitting in the parking lot. BMW Financials owns it. Greg is essentially just paying an endless, super expensive subscription fee just to feel like he owns a BMW. Layer 2, the secret bank among. So what if your coworker isn't actually drowning in loans? Well, sometimes the math is quietly supplemented by family money. This is the invisible layer that absolutely nobody is talking about around the water cooler. The data from savings.com shows half of parents with adult children are actually sending their kids regular financial support. And we aren't just talking about 22-year-olds trying to find their footing. Gen Z adults are pulling in an average of $1,813 a month, while millennials, we're talking people in their 30s and 40s, are still getting an average of $863 a month from mom and dad. Worse still, parents who are still in the workforce are now handing over twice as much money to their adult kids as they are contributing to their very own retirement accounts. Wild, right? Hovering above all of this is the great wealth transfer. We're looking at an estimated $124 trillion moving from boomers down to their kids and grandkids over the next couple of decades. But as you can probably guess, this inheritance is not evenly distributed at all. Half of that massive fortune is landing right in the laps of just 2% of households. So when you're sitting there doing that toxic envy math at the office, you might be driving yourself totally crazy trying to out-hustle someone who was simply handed a completely different starter pack. It's literally like you're running this grueling marathon and your coworker just got dropped off at mile 22 in an Uber. Sure, both of you crossed the finish line, but only one of you actually had to train for it.
Layer 3, the hidden overemployment hustle. Okay, so what if they aren't in debt and they aren't living off a secret inheritance? There's actually a third possibility. Check this out. A 2023 survey found a staggering 79% of fully remote workers secretly held 2 or more jobs in the past year. We literally have millions of fully credentialed, salaried professionals out there running this hidden overemployment hustle. So you know that coworker who always looks completely exhausted every single morning? Yeah, he might not be stressed from your project. He might literally be crushing 2 remote stand-up meetings at the exact same time with his camera off for a very, very specific reason. You are comparing your one income to his hidden 2.
So the absolutely crucial point here is learning to separate fake wealth from real wealth. Economics actually has a really fascinating term for this: inconspicuous consumption. Studies show that the truly wealthy actually prefer quiet, really subtle luxury goods with tiny or even completely invisible branding. Meanwhile, the people who spend the highest percentage of their income on luxury, regardless of what their actual net worth is, they tend to buy the absolute loudest, most heavily branded items available. Simply put, real money whispers, but fake money screams. Those super loud designer items are very, very often just masking a completely empty checking account. Let's actually contrast these two worlds side by side. Fake wealth is essentially a performance, right? It's the loud logos, the leased cars, the high stress. Take a Hermes Birkin bag or a shiny new Rolex, for example. Their prices on the secondary market have actually crashed pretty significantly since 2022. Real wealth, on the other hand, is quiet, it's totally unglamorous, and it is deeply stable. Think about it like this. If you put $10,000 into a Birkin bag a decade ago, sure, it's worth about $19,000 today. Not bad. But if you put that exact same $10,000 into the S&P 500, it's worth up to $40,000 today. The boring, quiet stock market just crushes the loud, flashy investment pieces every single time. In fact, if you want to know what actual millionaires look like in the real world, we have the data. The Ramsey Millionaires study surveyed over 10,000 actual American millionaires. And guess what the top 5 careers are? Engineer, accountant, teacher, management, and attorney. Yes, you heard that right. Teacher is in the top 5. Not a tech bro, not a high-paid doctor. Nearly 80% of these millionaires received zero inheritance. None. They don't carry credit card debt, they're driving older, completely paid-off Toyotas, and they are definitely not out there showing off their fancy lives on Instagram. Real wealth in America actually looks, well, almost incredibly boring. Which leads us directly to this completely staggering number: $6 million. Remember that average new car payment we talked about a minute ago? That's $772 a month? Well, if you take that exact monthly payment and instead of leasing a flashy luxury vehicle, you just quietly invest it in the stock market from age 25 to 65 at historical returns, you end up with over $6 million. That figure right there is the exact, literal mathematical difference between the coworker constantly leasing the absolute newest BMW and the quiet coworker driving an older paid-off sedan. One is showing off right now for sure, but the other one is going to actually own everything later. So the next time someone strolls into the office kitchen flashing a new luxury watch or spinning tales of some exotic getaway, do me a favor. Do not panic, and definitely do not try to compete with them. Just smile, go quietly automate your 401k, and completely ignore that toxic office envy math. Because the people you think are winning are largely just performing a really, really expensive play, and the ticket price is literally their entire financial future. So I'm going to leave you with this one question to chew on. In 15 years, when all those loans come due, when the parents finally stop sending the checks, and the music finally stops, who do you actually want to be? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. And hey, keep building that quiet, real wealth.